Chef Mark. Welcome to Escafe Online. We're excited to have you here today. You know, we have an international reputation. It's quite remarkable, considering that we have students in 16 countries. So we are internationally acclaimed. We're glad you're here today, and we welcome all of those who are watching. They may be up early or late at night, but we're pleased to have you here each week as we do Escafe Online Culinary, and of course right after, at 6 p.m. Central Time, is Chef Susie with all sorts of great Escafe desserts. She has a big treat in store for today, I know. But nice to have you here. I know this is our community of cooks. We share great knowledge about food. You have lots of great knowledge about food. I have a lot of knowledge about food. Share that with us. Chat. Use the chat feature. Click on the button. Reduce the window. Chat. Talk to us about what you'd like to talk about. Today we're doing a great dish. Many people didn't know about this dish until they saw the Disney movie called Ratatouille, right? So something I remember years back making as a first-level culinarian, all those many decades ago. And it's a great summer dish. Ratatouille niçoise is the style that Escoffier probably made. Niçoise, or Nice style, as in Nice, France. At the end, small niçoise olives are beautiful, chopped up, pitted and chopped up as garnish. I'm even going to throw some capers in there too. But a classic ratatouille is the bounty of summer vegetables. What better way to use vine-ripened rubber tomatoes? You can see behind me I picked up a half a bushel, $9 today, of some beautiful Michigan Roma plum tomatoes. They're really beautiful. So you can feature all of this, have some peppers growing. You may even have some courgettes, as the French call them. This is a European zucchini. So you can purchase that in the store at this time of year. Some beautiful eggplants. So ratatouille is a great summer dish. You can do lots of things with it. You can make a soup with it. You can make a spread for a bruschetta, a spread for a sandwich. You can puree it, use it as a dip. You can make it normally what we're doing today, serve it as stew-like as the side dish. It's also a nice thing to have for an evening, summer, chilled. So it makes a beautiful dish, also makes a great hot dish, and that's what we're making today, the ratatouille. So it's a really fine thing. I want to digress for a moment. That Ratatouille movie actually used Thomas Keller, a French-trained chef. I remember watching the movie and saying, wow, that food looks awfully good. Sure enough, they had a chef consult on the scenes of the movie Ratatouille, so a favorite movie of mine. So let's talk about what the ingredients are. We said we had our tomatoes. The ratatouille has vine-ripened tomatoes. What I've done here is taken those tomatoes and put an X mark on the bottom of each of the tomatoes, because we're going to peel them. So you can see that, sharp paring knife, X mark, simmering water, 10, 20 seconds. Take them out when they cool. Then you can see how easy the skin peels off the tomatoes, right? So tomato is actually a fruit, classified as a fruit, but we know it as a salad tomato. So these Michigan tomatoes are really nice. They're just beautiful things, greater than a wonderful vine-ripened tomatoes. The tomato skin you can use for stock if you like. You can discard those, your choice. So you have your tomatoes for this preparation. It calls for 2.5 pounds of tomatoes, 2 pounds of eggplant. And it has red and green peppers. The recipe is up already, I think. So let's talk about the zucchini now for this ratatouille and what this stew-like dish does for us. So you need to get yourself a real nice eggplant. Solid eggplant, no bruises, no scratch marks, no damages, so really nice. We'll just want to cut off the ends of that eggplant, right? Make sure you get off that section. And the very tiny end, it's funny how people cut things off. I don't know why I cut the end off, but I always do. But at least I cut the stem off. This is compostable. The most important to realize that eggplant is in the nightshade family, as the tomato is, so it can be bitter. These can be very bitter, depending. They look really nice this time of year, so I guess the shininess and the firmness and then the undamaged, unblemished eggplants are the one I pick up. So what you want to do is cut this into 3 sections. Have a nice sharp chef's knife. And then you just peel off alternately the skin. So you can leave the skin on if you like. Some ratatouille has the skin on, but I stripe peel it, right? Zebra stripes. I strip peel it. That way I still have some of the color, and also I can have some tenderness as well. So you peel that off. You need to have a strainer with you as well, because we're going to add a little salt to that. A lot of folks, especially Southern Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean peoples, like to use aubergine, as the French call it, the eggplant, in their preparations. And it is bitter and tart. What you want to do is cut it into 4 sections, right, like so. See that? Put it into 4 sections, lay them flat. We're going to cube them, and then we're going to put them in the bowl with some salt. I want you to think about, as a chef educator question to you, why we salt eggplant. And how long do we salt it for? So that's the question I don't want you to ask while you're thinking about that. In the meantime, I'm going to cut up my eggplant. So you're going to have to answer. Why? Well, someone just asked, can we use the Japanese eggplant? The Japanese eggplant, Chinese eggplant, they're nice to use. Both are fine to use, you bet. Just you need more of them. So they're very small. The Chinese eggplant is very straight and long and light purple color. And you'll need a lot of those. They tend to have a lot of seeds in them, I've noticed too, the Japanese and Chinese eggplant. I keep the skin on with those. Yeah, they're great to use. I keep the skin on those because they're easy to stir fry and saute with the skin on.
In response to your salt, do we need to salt to make it less bitter?
So right, someone has the answer correct. So that means they get a half-hour free consultation with Chef Mark. So the question was, why do we salt eggplant? The salt actually allows us to help tenderize and remove the bitterness. So you'll salt the eggplant, okay, toss it, let it sit about a half hour. Then we're going to drain it, right? So the saltiness, now sometimes you can wash it, but be mindful of the age of the eggplant. It might get too soggy, though you can spray with water. Some people say no, just put it in a colander, let it drain. So we'll do that. The weight, many times you put a weight on it. Some people may put a plate in a number 10 can, or a plate, some heavy brick, compresses it. I do that for eggplant parmesan, another great dish. So what's nice about the seasonal availability of these eggplants, that they're not as bitter and not as much seed in them. So yes, Japanese eggplant and Chinese eggplant are great to use as well. So we've done that. Let's cut up some peppers. Have our tomatoes chopped up. We're going to chop those up. Have them chopped up already. Have the eggplant cut up. Let's cut up some peppers for this recipe. About 1 pepper each. We have about 2.5 pounds of eggplant, 2.5 pounds of some beautiful ripe tomatoes. And we want to cut up our peppers. And what you want to do is remove the ends of the peppers you can see here. Those ends I keep for something else because they're misshapen. And then I cut these into sections. And I give myself some nice 1-inch cubes, right? 1-inch dice, that's a large dice. If you're keeping track of the cuts. As our Scoffier students know, that's a large dice. So 1-inch cut those into 1 inch, and we reserve those as well, because we're going to cook those. Now, to make a ratatouille, you have to cook the tomatoes with some garlic, olive oil, 20 fresh, large chiffonade basil leaves, and a couple of chopped parsley. I think I have everything cut up. Let's go over to the stove, and we'll start making our ratatouille niçoise. All right, now that you are here, right? You're watching. Those tomatoes, 2.5 pounds of tomatoes, the vine ripened, or I guess you can use canned. The summertime, the idea is to use fresh, field grown, in season produce. That's the treat, the great treat of a ratatouille. So the tomatoes, peeled, put into a sauce pot, soup pot. 8 large cloves of garlic go in. I chop them up, just coarsely chopped, or maybe even minced. They don't have to be exact. Now, all Italian chefs will tell you they never smash their garlic. They slice it thin and use it to flavor the oil and let it melt. So some chefs in particular, a lot of Italian chefs and French chefs have different ways of cutting up garlic, very interesting. So this is just in a pot. I'm going to add about a cup of olive oil, some nice French olive oil, right? About a cup to that, to the 2.5 pounds of tomatoes. My 8 beautiful, large cloves of garlic. I don't use the elephant garlic because it doesn't have as much flavor. It looks nice, the elephant garlic, but there's no taste to it. Then I have about 20 fresh basil leaves, right? You grow those in the garden. I used to have a basil leaf in my plant in the office. I used to have a basil leaf plant in the office, but on the weekend they turned off the AC and my office faces west. They got cooked. But they're still in my nursery. We're recovering from that unpleasant weekend foray. Well, that smells wonderful already. Nothing like garlic basil, right? Tomatoes. That's certainly the flavor of Southern Europe and the Southern Mediterranean. So just smash up those beautiful tomatoes. Let that simmer. You want to scorch it. People say, oh, add some sugar. You can add sugar if the tomatoes aren't as sweet. So you can do that. Let that simmer 30 minutes so it reduces nice flavors, amalgamate. So the olive oil, someone asked what olive oil I used. I used extra virgin olive oil because with this process, we're actually eating the dish. If I was just frying eggplant, I would use maybe pure olive oil. So why use expensive olive oil if you're just going to fry in it? You can. Some restaurants will mix pure and pomace, or extra virgin and pumice together to get that flavor. Some Italian restaurants. So I want to lower that. I don't want the tomatoes spattering all over the kitchen, right? So someone asked, did I add parsley? You bet. First step of a great ratatouille is beautiful tomatoes, peeled, coarsely chopped, cup of Italian parsley, and 20 basil leaves, large chiffonade added to that, and 8 cloves of garlic diced. So that's good. While that's cooking, you're going to cut up 2 large Spanish onions, 2 large yellow onions. You're going to cut them north to south pole in half, then cut them across the equator if you follow, and then cut them perpendicular. Make thin onion slices, onion julienne. We put that in olive oil, and they're cooking. They caramelize nice and slow. If they caramelize slow, which these have, they have a nice rich flavor, that rich onion flavor that people really enjoy. So, someone wanted to know when we add red wine. We're going to add wine to this dish in a little bit. It's going to be white wine, interestingly enough. I'm going to bring it over. This is the wine we're going to use today is Cupcakes Angel Food wine. Supposedly it tastes like angel food cake. We'll see. So we're going to add that to it. Add a little white. Chardonnay is always white. Add a little Chardonnay to it. So the tomatoes there, a little too high. Onions are looking good. All right, so earlier we cut up, and just before, we cut up the eggplant, we cut up the zucchini, we cut up the red, yellow, and golden peppers, and we've cooked those separately. Here they are here, cooked separately. We just cut them, but they cook quick. So the onions are sauteing. The zucchini or European, you can use summer squash if you want, but traditionalist, it's the green zucchini, your peppers, and your eggplant. The eggplant is prepared the same way. I cook the eggplant just like I'm doing these onions. I cook the 3 color peppers the same way I cook these onions. I cook the eggplant, aubergine, the same way I cooked the onions. So once the eggplant sits in the strainer, it starts to ooze some liquid. So all that bitterness, I'm going to taste one. It has a little light salty flavor. There's no bitterness. What's nice about in-season eggplant, they're not as bitter, not as tart. It didn't take so long to traverse the market.
What can you use in
It
place?
actually tastes nice with salt. Raw. Didn't hear that question, sir.
What can you use in place of red wine?
So someone asked what you use in place of it. The recipe doesn't call for wine at all, a ratatouille recipe. I'm going to add some white wine just because wine from Provence is nice to add a rosé. Doesn't need any wine at all. I just like to use a little wine since I even like to cook with it sometimes. Usually I drink it. So no liquid is needed. So let's add those veggies that I separately sauteed earlier, right? So there's those nice veggies. Right, so it's stew-like. You want it to be stew-like when you prepare it. So there's no mushrooms in it. The courgettes or green zucchini or European squash is nice. I guess you can use yellow squash as you can. Patty pan squash this time of year really nice too. The tricolor peppers, yellow, red, and green, or yellow, or what is it, red, green, and golden. Nice Spanish onions, or you get Walla Walla onions certain times of the year, the Maui onion, or the Vardeli onion, nice and sweet. Put those separate, add them together, and then you're going to add your tomato base to that. Ooh, this sure is looking good. It is smelling quite spectacular, if I do say so myself. So let's stir that up together. At this point, we can put a little wine in there to reduce. The recipe doesn't call for wine, but I like to use some wine because we like to feature a wine each week because it kind of goes with food. Don't have to. So this needs to stew because it is a vegetable stew, a ratatouille. And we stir that up. We'll add some pepper to that. It was about 1/4 teaspoon. No salt yet, because at the end, I'll want to add my Niçoise olives. They're cured. They have salt in them, so you don't want to make that too salty. But you'll want to make sure you taste it, so that it does have a nice flavor. It's hard to, not hard, but add salt to food many times it doesn't have a great flavor. You don't want it salty, you want it savory. Well, that's really nice. So we're going to let that simmer for about an hour. Well, we're not going to keep you waiting that long. We're going to bring over the one over to our table now that we made earlier and finish that off. So I have my nice plate here and a few of the ingredients I want to show you. So you can see now how that's become very stew-like, right? You can see now how beautiful that is. Nice to serve with some crusty whole wheat French bread. So this is ready to be served as a side dish, or it can be a meal. You can chill it, puree it, with chicken stock. Add some Pernod, that's the flavored liqueur. Wow, what a great summer soup that makes. Or you can also pulse it in a food processor with a little Tabasco sauce. Well, that's the brand, but with a hot sauce. And you can also add a little vinegar and hot sauce as you pulse it. Makes a great sandwich, but you can pulse it as fine as you want, right? On the pulse, or maybe on puree it. It's a beautiful spread. Keep it chunky, maybe cook it longer. So it makes a great soup. Put it on bruschetta, use it as a sandwich spread, serve it hot. Chill it, it's a great salad the next day. Vegetable salad, nice and healthy. Maybe cut back a little bit on olive oil. I did take a cup of olive oil, so maybe use a little less of that. But I added barely a half ounce of wine just for flavor. I'm going to put some more in my glass than a half ounce, though. We'll talk about how this cupcake wine goes with this ratatouille. Now, also with the ratatouille, you can add some breadcrumbs to it, right? And some capers. Let it cook a little longer, and add some stock. Great pasta sauce. Great pasta sauce. So let it cook a little longer, add a little stock to it, breadcrumbs and capers, great over thick spaghetti like a bucatini or tagliarini. Then also you can use some shaved cheese. I have a shaved French hard cheese. So I forgot to finish the final ingredient, the niçoise olives. So sprinkle some niçoise olives over the top of that. I'm going to taste it now because this has been cooking for an hour. We should stir it up, right? Because we have those olives in there. They'll add a nice, it's so sweet, the smell, beautiful.
How does caper taste?
So someone asked, how does a caper taste? Oh. Wow. A caper is a pickled berry, a Mediterranean shrub, evergreen shrub, it's the berry. Salty. Well, those are good. I'm going to put some of those in there. The recipe doesn't call for it. I like to buy these larger capers because they add a nice piquancy to it. So now I'm ready to dish that up.
Do you prefer a particular caper?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, Seth?
Do you prefer a particular caper?
Oh, do I prefer a particular caper? I just like the large ones, which I use. This happens to be Pagliacci, you know, that opera. So I like the Pagliacci operas. That's why I bought that. The label appeared to me. The Luciano Pavarotti used to sing Pagliacci, right? So I like the large ones. I'm going to put a little shaved French dry cheese on there. Excuse me. Let's take a look at that and see what we think. Maybe some breadcrumbs if you want. So I'm just adding a few things to it. And then I want to try this wine. It's always a challenge times to marry and pair vegetables with wine because of the uniqueness of vegetables. They don't have the fat, the protein that can cut into a fermented grape juice. This smells nice. It smells like angel food cake, hence the name.
Do you prefer capers packed in oil or salt?
Oh, very tasty. So these capers, as someone asked, these are packed in brine, water, and vinegar and salt. So though they do have really large ones packed in salt, I like the ones in the brine because I could use them easier. So this, the cupcake Chardonnay, I think is really nice. It has a little apple in the nose, as a Chardonnay does, usually. It has a little angel food cake taste, very, very interesting. So as we finish up today's session, I want to taste this again to make sure it tastes as wonderful as it smells as it did earlier.
Why add breadcrumbs?
I just added a few things on the top just to make it more interesting. So I added some breadcrumbs and cheese just because I wanted to make a chef's whimsy, I guess you'll call it. If you're going to make a pasta sauce with this, add a little stock to it. and add some breadcrumbs to it and cheese, and it makes a great sauce for pasta. So I'm just kind of thinking about a pasta sauce I'll make with it, with breadcrumbs and cheese. Breadcrumbs will help it absorb some of the oil and keep it together.
When do you think wine and cooking, does the alcohol cook out of it?
Someone asked, when you use wine in cooking, does all the alcohol cook out? No, it does not. There's still a small percentage of alcohol that remains, 0.5% or something like that. So good thing to keep in mind. So that's a great dish. It was fun making that. It's very flavorful. Like I said, lots of uses. Chill it and then puree it. Chicken stock, little Pernod. What a great chilled summer soup that makes. There's lots of things you can do with a nice ratatouille. So we're going to wrap up. Any last questions as we get ready to just finish off with this cupcake Chardonnay. And the color is nice, light straw color. It really has, I think it's a great match with this ratatouille niçoise. In a few moments, I'll join you on the chat, so I'll be there to type in, chat with you. It was great having you here today for ratatouille niçoise. We're doing next week summer vegetables number 3, and then we'll be doing fish after that, a great fish dish, especially like in the summer you get a lot of lake fish, so you're going to enjoy all our sessions. And it was nice having you here today for our Escafé Online program. And tell your friends, please email us any questions at chefmark@escafeonline.com. Happy to take your questions. You visit us, of course, on YouTube. There's learntocook.com, also on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in learntocook.com, and then all our great postings as well. So if there aren't any last questions, it was nice having you here today as we made our great summer ratatouille. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks very much, and bon appetit.